watching America Trends. I'm Mary Burt-Godwin, and we, a few weeks ago, had the next guest on, and I had so many questions for her. I said, I need to have you back. Her name is Andrea Woroch. She is a consumer finance expert at AndreaWoroch.com. And everything that she was talking about, I thought I need more of all of that. So Andrea, welcome back to the show. I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you so much for having me back. And I think it's so true. I mean, we can't just have one conversation when it comes to money. There are so many different layers to creating financial security. So I'm so glad you had me back on, and I can't wait to dig back in.
Well, it's funny because, we talked a little bit about you, and like, finding those things in your expenses. Like for me, it was the Hulu and the different things that I pay for. And so as they were coming back up, my charges on my statement, I thought, Andrea would have me like look into this and what exactly am I getting? So you definitely made a lasting impression with me. So I'm glad you're back here today. And I forget where you're zooming in from.
Oh, I'm in Bakersfield, which is about an hour and a half north of Los Angeles.
Okay, so you're close. We're California gals here. So the first thing I want to talk to you about, because this comes up a lot, and Sully, who owns this facility that we're in, he talks a lot about credit scores a lot as well. So I wanted to ask you about credit scores, because I know that's on a lot of people's minds. And I guess my questions are, number one, how much do they really matter? I think they matter a lot, but I just want to hear what you have to say about it. And then how can people improve their credit score if they don't have a good one?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, credit scores really are important. They're almost like a base for your financial health. And what I mean by that is credit affects your ability to borrow money for a lot of different things, whether you want to buy a home, buy a car, or even renting an apartment. A landlord will look at your credit score to determine how likely you are to pay your rent on time. You also need a good credit score to open up a utility account. And if you want to get a smartphone, if you have really poor credit, you're going to have to lay out even more money on a deposit in order to get that smartphone open. So it affects so many aspects of your life. I was even reading a study, and I'm gonna look it up here. A study from the zebra.com found that drivers with poor credit pay 122% more for car insurance than those drivers who have good credit. And that amounted to over $1,500 more a year in their annual premium. And you're going to pay more in interest when you get a credit card if you carry a balance. You're going to pay more interest on a home loan with lower credit scores. So you always want to aim to get a great score. And there are things you can do to make that happen.
And it doesn't really reflect how much money you have, because you may not have as much money, but you could still have a really high credit score if you do certain things right?
Exactly.
And I want you to tell me what those things are.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, you never really want to carry a high balance on your credit card. There's some misinformation out there that says you should carry a balance on your credit card from month to month. The reality is you should be paying that down to $0. And if you're carrying a balance, you're charging more than you truly can afford every month. And now I get that a lot of people had to rely on their credit cards during the pandemic. This was, an unprecedented time when it comes to that, but you can get back on track now. Hopefully you're feeling more economically stable and you can do that. But when you then lower the debt, you have more available credit, and that makes you look like a better borrower to lenders. So you always want to have more available credit. And so to that point, when you do pay off a credit card, don't close that account. You actually want to leave that credit card open because it shows that you have more available credit. But a good strategy would be to hide that credit card or cut it up and maybe just leave a small reoccurring charge on it that you pay off in full. So maybe your Netflix subscription, and just automate it to pay it off. So you're using it, but you're never carrying a balance. Some other things that you want to consider doing if you have really bad credit and you're trying to get some bump up in your score is to become an authorized user on somebody else's credit card account. So this could be a partner or spouse who has really great credit and they manage their payments and pay on time, or maybe a family member, and you will benefit from that card holder's perfect credit score, and that will help build your credit. I actually helped my husband when we first got together with this strategy, and I think it's a great one as long as you trust the person whose account you're joining, because if they do anything wrong with their credit, that will impact you as well.
Yeah, so I just want to touch base on that really fast. So you would ask a friend or your spouse or your significant other to say, hey, can I become an authorized user? Is that what you called it?
Exactly, an
On their
authorized
account.
user on there. So you're added as a secondary user.
Okay.
You are not on the hook to make any payments. So that means, only the primary cardholder has to make those payments on every month. And just make sure that you have some type of agreement if you are planning to use that credit card, that you have a plan on how you pay that off, or maybe you don't use it at all.
You're really putting your eggs in their basket though to make sure they pay that off on time or don't do it and go delinquent, right?
Exactly. So it just has to be someone that you really trust. And so that's why I'm saying your spouse or your partner. If you are a parent, you have a teen, you want to help them, or maybe a college student who got into some debt, this could be a good strategy as well to help them out.
And you mentioned, paying it off every month, because I do have a credit card that I use for big expenses. I use it every month, and it's a big one, but I pay it off every month to zero. And that's just part of my strategy. Then I get a lot of miles and I have a whole plan. But I've heard some people say, no, don't take it down to zero right away. You want to only pay half of it or some of it. And then that seems counterintuitive to me though.
Right. You just want to make sure that whatever you charged, you pay off before that billing statement is due. So let's say your billing period ends on the 15th of the month. If you put a $1,500 laptop charge on the 16th, you don't actually have to pay that off by the next payment date, because that applies to your next statement. So it's not due for another month and a half. If you want to pay it off earlier, then that's even better, because now you're going to carry less balance. You're going to have more available credit, and that's just going to bump up your credit score. So you just want to pay attention to when your billing statement ends and when that billing statement period payment is due.
And how do you get your limit up? Is there a strategy for that, to how much you can expend on the card?
Yes, of course. So, and also just keep in mind, you don't want to ever go over your limit, because that will be a strike against you as well. But even if you don't need a limit increase because you are perfectly fine with the amount that your credit card is offering, getting a limit increase does increase your available credit. So let's say you have mortgage debt and an auto loan debt. Getting a limit increase could boost your credit score. And so if you're managing your credit card, you haven't missed any payments, you pay on time, you pay in full, there are no fees, go to your credit card company and just ask. Negotiating a limit increase can boost your credit score.
Okay, that's a great one. And any other tips on improving the score?
Yeah, just consider that you should be checking your credit report every few months. I mean, right now, actually, at annualcreditreport.com, you can check your credit reports from all 3 credit reporting agencies for free once a week. You don't have to do it once a week if you feel like you have general control, but checking in periodically, look to see if there are any errors, or is there any fraudulent activity that is impacting your credit score. You can dispute any errors by writing to the creditor who issued that remark, as well as to the credit reporting agency, explaining why it's an error and providing any documentation as proof as to why it's a mistake. And that will then help to be removed from your credit report.
So checking your credit report does not dock you, right? I think I heard that somewhere along the way, that checking
No, not at all.
Okay.
Again, another myth. No, you should check your credit report at least once a year, and each credit reporting agency gives you a free report once a year. Another thing you might want to do is set up a credit score monitoring. That could be available through your credit card. Even sites like Credit Karma offer this. They'll alert you, send you either a text or email when they notice either an increase or a decrease in your credit score. So it's just smart to stay on top of it. If you notice there's decrease and you haven't done anything, that might be an alert that there's something going on that's maybe fraudulent on your account. So you want to check.
You know, what is the deal with the 3 different agencies? Why are there 3 different agencies that you have your credit with, your credit score?
Yeah, so they just take different factors into their overall credit reports. And so it's just gathering all the information. They get average scores, and that's what the lenders and credit card issuers, they all look at and just kind of determine what your average score is.
So could you have a bad score with one and a decent or good score with another?
I would say that it usually just varies by a few points. So you're not going to see a dramatic change between each. If you do, then that would be another alert to go check their report because there might be an error in there.
Okay, one quick question too is, let's say I just give an example here, had a water heater break and I had to spend thousands of dollars, and the plumbing company I went to, they said, hey, you can get a credit card with us, and then it has 0% for the whole year or whatever. So is that a bad or a good idea to open up a new one when you have a big expense like that?
That really depends on your personal financial situation. So, in most typical situations, you want to use cash whenever possible. And that's why I always recommend that no matter what, even when you're paying down debt, you always still try to save money. Your cash cushion, your emergency savings fund, is there for issues like your water heater breaking. So, you can pay it off in full and not have to get back into debt by using a credit card.
That's smart.
However,
yeah. Oh, I'm going to put a pin on that. I'll be right back with more
Okay.
from Andrea Woroch right after this. You're watching America Trends. I'm Mary Burt-Godwin, and I am talking via Zoom to Andrea Woroch, financial expert, consumer finance expert. And she, right before the break, I asked you a big, long question, then I had to cut you off a little bit. But we were talking about, if it's a good idea to open a new credit card when you have a big expense. And you mentioned, it's a good idea to have money saved up for those kinds of things that pop up. So that leads me to my next question for you is, what are some tips on saving money? I think that it's a really tricky one. So what would you say are some of your biggest tips so that if you do have that $10,000 all of a sudden out of the blue, your water heater breaks, you have savings to pay for it?
Right. Yeah. Well, and just really quickly to go back to that point where you asked if you should open up a line of credit with 0% interest, if it's a credit card or something offered through a service provider. In the situation where you don't have any savings, then yes, that would be better than using a credit card that's going to charge you interest, and then just focus on paying down that balance in lieu of, saving money and that. But yes, but saving money is really, really important, and focusing on an emergency fund is so critical. The first thing you want to do is kind of break down what are your essential monthly expenses. What do you need to survive every month, and figure out how much you want in your emergency fund. Lots of experts say between 6 to 9 months of living expenses. The reality is that most Americans may not be able to save that much. And when you think about trying to save thousands and thousands of dollars, it could deter you because you feel frustrated that you'll never reach it. So I say to aim for 1 to 3 months of living expenses to start. And so that budget baseline will give you kind of a parameter, a goal to follow and to achieve. And then there are things that you want to do to help boost those savings. So first, go through your budget, figure out what expenses are you potentially spending money on that you really don't need. Maybe you just cut them out for a few months. A lot of people don't want to, cut expenses, but I think when you approach it with the mindset that you can always add it back in once you reach your goal, it's easier to do. So maybe it's just, canceling that gym membership for a few months and working out outside now that the weather is cooling down, or perhaps it's really cutting back on going out to eat right now as you boost your emergency savings fund. So it's kind of paying attention to those little things that you spend on a daily basis.
Well, and this is leading me to my next question. And I saw this on your website, and I can't even believe we're talking about it, but it is almost September, and that means the holidays are the blink of an eye away for everybody. So I saw you already talking at a blog post about debt-proofing your holidays and, starting to save now. I mean, I do start buying my kids Christmas presents now because I don't want to have it all come at me right in November and December. So I start asking them now, and I start thinking about it. I know some moms that start in January, and stockpile it away. So what are some of your tips as we head into the holiday season? It's going to be here before we know it.
Well, I think that is my first tip, is to start shopping now and spread out those purchases. I'd like to tell people to start saving money, maybe every week put a small amount, whatever it is you can afford to put away, whether it's $20, $50 a week. But I find that it's harder for a lot of people to save. So instead, if you start making some purchases now, it's kind of like an alternative savings plan. And that alleviates that financial pressure that a lot of people feel between Black Friday and Christmas when they're trying to buy all their gifts with just 1 or 2 paychecks. And that's when people end up using a credit card, racking up debt. So if you can spread out the purchases, not only are you making the holiday shopping season less stressful because you're not out rushing around and trying to beat the crowds to buy everything, but you're managing your cash flow better. It's also giving you more time to search for the best deals and compare prices. I feel like when people shop in a pinch at the last moment, they're kind of not spending the time to do that.
And what are the things, like, I think you said something about gift cards and, points. That's a good one, because I try to save up like Ulta points or whatever. I think, oh, my kids are going to want makeup, so save those points up, right?
Right. Well, it's really important that you look at your credit card rewards and that you look at your loyalty rewards. I read a stat somewhere that over 30% of credit card users never redeem their rewards. Maybe they're waiting for something really valuable to make those rewards seem meaningful. But if you just let them go to waste, they're not doing anything for you and they could potentially expire. So this is a good time to go through your credit cards, see how many points or miles you've accumulated. Can you turn those into gift cards to use for the holidays? Can you turn miles into cash or products and shop through the online portal? There's so many ways to use those rewards to help you out over the holidays. Or also consider getting a new credit card right now, as long as you're good at managing your card. If you have any big ticket purchases coming up or you're planning to buy some holiday gifts early, a lot of credit cards offer a free cash bonus when you spend a certain amount of money within the first 3 months. Sometimes it's a low spending threshold, maybe just $500, and you'll get a free $200 cash bonus, and that could cover a few of your holiday gifts. So why not take advantage of that?
Yeah, in fact, one of my credit cards has a great system with Apple products. So I got some AirPods for my daughter, and I don't know, there's great ways I can find some savings there to use my credit card points.
And then I was also going to recommend that you start researching prices on products that you do want to buy, because we know prices fluctuate all the time. And if you start tracking prices on some of those gifts that you want to buy for your kids or your spouse, your loved ones, you can stay on top of those price fluctuations. So Honey offers something called the drop list feature. You add items to the list, they'll alert you when something goes on sale, so you know when to buy it.
Ooh, what's that website? Because I use Hopper for flights and airlines. So what's that called, Honey?
This one is called Honey Drop List. So it's an added feature. It's like a browser extension, and you can just add items to this drop list feature. And they also have historical pricing data to notify you when an item, so you can see if something it was sold for less previously, if it's up or down, and that just helps you make better buying decisions.
Oh God, I got to check that out. That's a great one. Especially I think for parents with kids that have that want Xboxes or things that are those big ticket items that you always kind of think, oh my gosh, am I really going to drop this money all at one time? But that's a great place to look.
Yes. And then, of course, you want to consider, especially for the gadgets, since you brought that up, look at refurbished options. A lot of retailers, Best Buy has an outlet page dedicated to refurbished and open box electronics, Dell outlet, even Walmart and Apple, they sell refurbished products. You just want to make sure they come with a warranty and that there is some type of return or, as I mentioned, warranty policy. But these are so great. In some cases, these refurbished products were purchased, opened, and then returned and never used, but that electronic retailer has to sell it as refurbished, or perhaps they were repaired but sold and promised to work like new. And you're looking at savings of 20 to up to 60% off. So that could be off a smartphone, a tablet, a video gaming console. That's a great way to stretch your dollars, especially because for our kids, they're going to be sick of it after a few months anyway, and they're going to want something else.
Oh my gosh, that seems to always happen. I think about the trends that I bought into over the years at Christmas time, and I want to tell moms now, don't do it. Don't buy the little trinkets. But they loved them so much, and Christmas morning is always so fun. But then the January, buyer's remorse is serious. It's legit.
Exactly.
Right? we're going to have you back in January to talk about that. But actually, before that, we'll gear everyone up so they don't have that in January.
Yes, I know. And I find that it is inevitable, even for the consumers out there who create these like really great budgets. But once you go out shopping, you kind of get into the holiday spirit, and I get it.
I get sucked in.
Yeah, you get sucked in, you feel good, you're out, you want to get something for everyone. But just remember that you don't have to
They don't all need it.
spend money to, give something meaningful. There are things like spending time with people. Maybe you could find a volunteer.
We'll have you back to talk more about Christmas